hydrologist and geochemist with USGS, and our Water Science Center are kind of like the federal consulting firm, if you will. So if there's an issue that someone is having, they'll call us up and hire us to do a job. A couple examples of that are when the Gold King mine spill happened, we were called and asked to install continuous monitoring sondes from the Colorado border to the Utah border to to understand what was happening in the river. Another thing that most recently we've been hired to do is to sample a reservoir that has 80 years of sediment deposited from the Animas River to see sort of mining legacy. And then unrelated to Colorado is a lot of uranium work that I've done in New Mexico. And that actually is sort of what leads into this. So prior to my work at the USGS, I was a postdoc at the University of New Mexico. And they had a NSF-funded program called EPSCoR, which stands for Established Program to Stimulate Competitive Research. It's in a number of states that typically don't get as much research funds in, so it's trying to get more and more research done. And so I was a postdoc there for a couple of years and worked with a number of people from New Mexico Bureau of Geology, New Mexico Tech, as well as UNM. And then one of our former PhD students is now at University of California, Riverside. And so the funding has recently run out, as does happen with NSF funding. And so EPSCoR provides an opportunity to sort of have a culmination meeting of sorts. And so it's actually called a Sustainability Innovative Working Group Workshop. So that's what we did. And so during the time of EPSCoR, it was a 5-year project, and the focus for our particular team was on uranium. And we studied uranium essentially on tribal lands, both in New Mexico and Arizona, and looked a lot at uranium mobility, uranium uptake from plants, uranium in dust. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that's the general idea. And so as this sort of came to a culmination, so these are photos from the Laguna Pueblo in New Mexico on the jackpile line. Some of you may be familiar with that. This is part of our team out sampling, explaining some of the information to the local community, which is a really important part of working on tribal land, and then, of course, having lunch at Laguna Burger, which is an excellent research burger if you're ever in New Mexico. So we have a number of papers out about that. I'd be happy to talk to anybody about those kinds of things. But the reason that Marcy asked me to come is because we had this workshop about making abandoned mines profitable. And so very similar to this workshop, we brought together a number of people from industry, government, academia, state and federal, EPA. We even had some people from tribal environmental departments come. And before I forget, we do have an open file report that was published by a couple of my co-authors. I have a few copies if people want to thumb through them or take them, but it's available online, and I have the link on the last slide. So we had this set amount of money, so we were able to bring in people without any cost to anyone, which was really nice. And so it was limited to about 50 people, most people from the New Mexico area, a few people from elsewhere. And one of the sort of catalysts to this was we have an economic geologist, in New Mexico, who had this idea of critical minerals. And I imagine a number of you have heard of this idea of critical minerals. And so I'm going to read you this executive order from President Trump about critical minerals. It's defined as a mineral identified to be a non-fuel mineral or mineral material essential to the economic and national security of the U.S. from a supply chain that is vulnerable to disruption and that serves as an essential function in the manufacturing of a product, the absence of which would have substantial consequences for the U.S. economy or national security. Anyway, so within this, there's a declaration that the Department of Interior and Department of Defense needed to define what these critical minerals are. And in fact, the USGS, we have a geology section, we have a mineral section, and so there is an open file report, which I didn't print. It's open file report 2018-1021, if anyone's interested. That sort of gives a preliminary list of those programs. So, along we go to our workshop. So, and again, this is really has been similar to what Marcy has done. I came last year, and similar kind of ideas where we had a day and a half of sort of short talks where people talked about their research, their innovations. There was people talking about community concerns, sort of all over the place. And then we did have a poster session in the evening, and so Dennis McCullen, our chief scientist in New Mexico, didn't realize he was going to be here, but he gets to know. And Ilian Heineck, who actually replaced me as a postdoc, were looking at her poster, and we had a nice reception in the evening. But so we had these talks. We spent essentially 2 full days together with everyone in this room, ate lunch together, ate dinner together, and just talked. We went through and came up with expected outcomes for the workshop. I won't read them to you. I'll let you read them. But essentially, a lot of what's going to be discussed here. And partially, I think when Marcy and I talked, part of why I think it was really good for me to come is to see, hey, you know what? Colorado is not the only place that's having some of these issues. Gold King mine aside, we've got tons of mines in New Mexico, and there's people there who are discussing the same exact thing. And so this is just sharing with you all what our approach is. And so, identifying those mine wastes that could potentially be economically viable. What are some good technologies? What are some hazards, right? That's where my work comes in. What's the mobility questions? And then, of course, how do you fund this stuff? That's always a problem. The details of the discussion, and again, you can read this in this OFR, but these are sort of the main points that we came across among everyone in the group. So, what mine waste do you want to try to extract? How do you get money to do that? How do you get permits to do that? One of the big complaints from some of the industry folks is that it takes a long time to get a permit. By the time you get a permit, that commodity isn't worth it anymore. So, some of these different challenges. Hazard mitigation. So, how do you avoid spills from happening or, water flooding through a dam or whatever. The social nexus. So, again, because we've worked on a lot of tribal lands, we've really had to develop, especially when I was a postdoc, relationships with the community. I've also had to do this as a USGS employee where you work with community members on a specific issue, especially related to uranium, where there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of questions, and so you really have to have that part of it involved. And there are people out there that specialize in that. Of course, the economics, I think that's been mentioned already. Is this particular commodity going to be worth anything, right? And is it going to be worth anything by the time you extract it? Unintended consequences. Okay, so Gold King is a prime example of that. There was a big uranium spill in Church Rock, New Mexico, a long time ago actually now. But these are things that no one intends to have happen. But what do you do in the follow-up? How are you ready for that? How do you monitor that? How do you handle it? Hurdles. So again, things like permitting and funding and sorry, this is a pretty good size document. Recommendations. We go through that. What other hurdles? Risk management. Communication between regulators and industry. Communication between industry and researchers. So that's again, this type of thing is really, really helpful. And we found that within that group of 50 people for 2 days that we met a lot of people that we could work with and starting to get that understanding about each person's role in sort of the larger mining issues. Some recommendations that came up were things like the government stockpiling critical minerals. aren't necessarily my suggestions. So fast track permitting for critical minerals, public education, quantifying the resources. So we do have a campaign in New Mexico from our Bureau of Geology that's trying to identify abandoned mines, where they are and what they have in them. Suggesting compiling databases of water quality to try to understand maybe where minerals are or what some of the hazards could be. Opportunities, how can people work together? Just sharing ideas, there may be things that someone in here is working on that someone else is working on, and you can talk to each other and maybe, create a better product or a better research. And then of course collaborations, it's always good to talk to each other, and I think that's why we're here. So, you probably can't read this, but essentially this is a kind of a flow diagram, conceptual model that was put together at the end of the conference to kind of see how this is just this nexus of all these different things: universities, community, regulatory agencies, also science agencies, and industry, and all of the things that go in between. And so, again, I think this is just giving an example of how we approached it. Lots of ideas in here, free, online, or like I said, I have a few copies. You're even welcome to have my copy. So feel free, if you want, email it to me or you're interested in any of those other mining projects I've mentioned. This is the link. I think if you just Google New Mexico Bureau of Geology abandoned mine land, you'll probably find it. And of course, I have to mention that this was awarded by us. Anyway, questions? That's a really good question. So it's a great question, right? And there were so many good ideas of how to try to work together on that. And I don't know that there was a definitive answer. This was sort of the first time that this group of people had been together. So I don't know. If I knew, I would let you know. There were a few. I think some of them were out of mines like in Mexico, where there was companies that have actually had some success. There was one company that was making fertilizer out of in mines. So, but not that many, and I think there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, well, uranium's on there, although I think there were arguments about whether or not uranium should be on there. But there's 35. Copper was one of them that kind of caught my eye, given some of the issues here. Aluminum, yeah. So there's a number of them that certainly would apply to, the Southwest, Colorado, New Mexico. Rare. Yep. So yeah. So there's a number of them that